Hi, I'm Joey Chou, and this is Beyond the Reefs. Today we're diving into a world where lightning-fast reflexes, hours of practice, and even business strategy all come together on a screen. It's the world of esports, and in Taiwan it's no longer just a teenage hobby, it's a growing industry, one with international trophies, loyal fan bases, and real paychecks. But as with any fast-growing world, there are risks. In the past year alone, Taiwan has seen both glory on the global stage and painful collapses at home. In this episode, we'll explore how Taiwan's gaming community is transforming into a competitive force, why some teams are disbanding despite their success, and what it really takes to turn gaming into a career. Later, we'll hear from Santiago Huang, a pioneer in Taiwan's esports scene who's seen the highs and the heartbreaks. Let's load in. Hi, you're listening to Beyond the Reefs, a show produced by Radio Taiwan International. Here we talk about the socio-economic issues faced by Taiwan and their broader impact around the world beyond the reefs of this island nation.
Just like any other high school in Taiwan, students head to class after their lunch break. But this class is different. And here, they're learning the basics of esports. Esports, short for electronic sports, is a fast-growing global industry, and Taiwan is keeping up. Across the country, schools have been launching esports classes and varsity teams in the past decade, preparing students to compete internationally in both mobile and PC games. Students on the school's esports team train over 8 hours a day, even through winter and summer breaks, to stay ready for competition. The school's 3 teams compete in a number of tournaments annually, including the ACS Summer Tournament, a major event for the mobile esports squad. The tournament draws both live and online audiences, with top teams earning significant prize money. While the program trains aspiring esports gamers, less than 3% of them will go on to turn pro. There is criticism about how the program may come at the cost of other academic subjects. But one mother who allowed her son to enter the school's esports program believes education goes beyond just grades. And Coach Jerry Fan says the program isn't just about esports. While the road to becoming a pro gamer is uncertain, what these students gain along the way, discipline, resilience, and purpose, may be the real victory in the game of life, whether or not they ever grace the global esports stage. Joseph Wu, Peachy Zhuang, and Chelsea Wu for Taiwan Plus.
Taiwan's gaming culture didn't pop up overnight. Back in the early 2000s, internet cafes were packed with teens playing StarCraft and Counter-Strike. If you're as old as me, those names are very, very true to home. At the same time, no one imagined these games would someday be played in front of live stadium audiences or streamed to millions of viewers online. Fast forward to 2025, and Taiwan now has over 1,700 professional esports players. Collectively, they've earned more than $22 million in tournament prizes, according to esports earning trackers. That puts Taiwan in the top 15 globally, an impressive feat for a small island of 23 million people. Just last week, Taiwan's own Chen Yuhan, better known by his gamer name QQ, made headlines by leading his team, VK Gaming, to victory in the Esports World Cup in Saudi Arabia. He took home $600,000 in prize money and was crowned MVP for his killer 17 elimination performance in a single round of Apex Legends. In the gaming world, that's like winning Wimbledon and scoring the winning goal in the World Cup on the same weekend. That win just came in a year after Taiwan's Banmei Gaming dominated the Arena of Valor Premier League in Bangkok. And if you're wondering, yes, that's a mobile game, which is one of the fastest growing parts of esports. So how did Taiwan go from playing in internet cafes to winning world championships? Well, when most people think of video games, they picture someone clicking away at random. But competitive gaming at the top level is a lot more like a chess mixed with Formula One. Take a game like League of Legends, where 2 teams of 5 compete. The pro players don't just quote-unquote play the game. They study every possible version of it. They know which characters are strong this season. They track which tactics other teams are using. They even practice specific in-game movements, just like a dancer might rehearse a routine. And then there's the number crunching. Pro teams often include, quote, analysts, people who don't even touch the keyboard during a match. Instead, they create spreadsheets, simulate strategies, and predict what the other players might do. When the game updates, these analysts adjust everything. They are the brains behind the scenes and the coaches building the team's battle plan. On the local front, Taiwan is now part of a new regional esports league called the League of Legends Championship Pacific, or LCP. It launched in 2025, bringing together teams from across Asia Pacific. Taiwan's best team right now is the CTBC Flying Oysters, or CFO. They've already won 2 LCP titles this year and reached the semifinals of the global First Stand tournament, knocking out teams from North America and Europe along the way. The team is backed by one of Taiwan's biggest banks, CTBC, which shows that big business is taking notice. Another team, PSG Talon, has been a regular contender in past global tournaments and continues to invest in player development. So, can you get rich playing games? Well, the short answer is yes, but it's not easy. Top-tier streamers like Ninja in the US are reported to make over $20 million a year, mostly from Twitch and sponsorships. That's live streaming and sponsorships, by the way. But in Taiwan, most pros are ranking in millions just yet. According to industry insiders, a mid-level player in Taiwan can earn between 50,000 NT dollars to 80,000 NT dollars a month. That's about 1,600 US to 2,500 US. This could come from tournament winnings, streaming income, or brand partnerships. Streaming is particularly popular if a player builds a loyal audience on platforms like Twitch or YouTube. They can make money from donations, ad revenue, or even selling in-game items. But it's not just about being good at the games. You also need to be entertaining, consistent, and know how to build a brand. Here's a fun stat. One Taiwanese streamer known as Chi Fan plays Minecraft and Valorant and reportedly makes enough to support his entire family just by streaming 5 nights a week. Now back to the tournament front. Behind every gamer on stage, there's an entire crew making the magic happen. At every major event, you'll find people like broadcast producers managing the live stream, shoutcasters calling the actions, camera operators, graphic designers, and sound engineers, even nutritionists and sports psychologists. These are real jobs, full-time jobs. In fact, one of Taiwan's biggest tournament organizers recently advertised a mental coach position for their team, someone to help players stay calm under pressure. In short, esports is not just about who has the fastest fingers, it's about teamwork, logistics, and storytelling. Now here's the puzzle. If Taiwan is doing so well in tournaments, why are so many teams shutting down? In the past 2 years alone, at least 3 professional teams, including the ones promising beyond gaming, have folded. In many cases, it wasn't about talent. It was about money. Running an esport team costs a lot. You need to pay salaries, buy equipment, rent training facilities, and fly players to international tournaments. Without reliable sponsors or media deals, teams can quickly run into financial trouble. One expert told us, esport is a business, and most of these young teams are trying to run before they can even walk. Taiwan's market is also smaller than, say, China or South Korea. That makes it harder to attract big advertisers or streaming contracts. But some believe that with better business planning and local investment, the industry can stabilize. Here's why things get interesting. The average Taiwanese gamer today is no longer a broke student. They're often working adults in their 30s. Many grew up with MapleStory or Counter-Strike, and now they have jobs, salaries, and nostalgia. That means more people are willing to pay for premium skins, attend live events, or even support local teams through fan clubs and merch. In marketing terms, the audience is quote-unquote maturing, and that's good news for long-term sustainability. As one game developer puts it, the kids who wanted Air Jordans but couldn't afford them, they're now buying limited edition gaming mice instead. Let's bring in someone who's seen all firsthand. Santiago Huang is a pioneer in Taiwan's esports world. He was a professional gamer back when esports wasn't even a word here. He's won championships, launched tournaments, and now runs 4Gamer, a company that supports game influencers, streamers, and new talent. Santiago, welcome to the show. And our first question for you is, you've said before that winning isn't just about fast reflexes, it's about preparation. Can you walk us through how you train your team back in the days, and what kind of routines did you build to get ahead of the competition?
其实反应力这件事情啊，它可能是一个基础的必要。
Reflex might be a basic necessity, but in elite gaming, strategy is much more important. For example, the team that I led back in the day won quite a few competitions in Taiwan. What we did was excessively study the design of the game we competed in. For example, we're familiar with every map in Counter-Strike. Even though the character spawn location is random, we knew exactly where the nearest vantage point or strategic location was. There's also the match economy to consider for both sides. The resources you receive for winning each round affects the weapon you can purchase and how to strategize for the next round. If you know your opponent's match economy, then you counteract accordingly. League of Legends is another very popular game at the moment. In their professional teams, aside from the player's performance, a lot of the information is processed by their coach, who is in charge of tactical choices during the matches, and analysts who calculate optimal strategies whenever a new version of the game is released. In elite gaming, the probability of wins, losses are usually quite apparent as soon as the teams are laid out. This is very different from traditional sports. So in elite sports competitions, applied mathematics and engineering is very important.
Right, so I'm not gonna lie, it sounds a little tedious when you turn a video game, which is supposed to be fun, into something so scientific and accurate, like the way they do. But I suppose that's what you need to do to deliver consistency, and also what you need to achieve to make it your job. Which is why gaming as a profession is not for everyone, and esports as a goal to achieve championships to win is certainly a cup of tea that is reserved for only the most dedicated. What's interesting is when I was younger, we used to make fun of gamers, myself being one, for being nerds or geeks. And it turns out, guess what? It does take a nerd or a geek, or at least someone who is exceptionally good with numbers and able to deliver something with consistency to get into this occupation. So I suppose we weren't exactly wrong there. So let's continue our conversation with Santiago Huang. And Santiago, my next question here for you is, now these days players aren't just gamers, they're also content creators, business people, even entertainers. If someone listening wants to make a living in esports but isn't a world championship, what advice would you give them? And where can they start?
这个落差非常大，因为摆不同的游戏项目跟摆玩的不同的类型，那个落差就十分的大了。
This can vary greatly. First of all, different types of games will have very different results. Let's not even talk about the top earners. Let's focus on the mid to low end. A player who is committed, is good at the game, and has a thorough understanding of the game can usually make for a pretty good streamer. Not only do they have better insight, they can even crack jokes and chat with the viewers while maintaining a rather intense gameplay. This type of player can easily make 50,000 NT a month. The players that I know far exceed that amount. But without this background as a professional gamer, to make a living out of streaming is much harder. But to be honest, the esports industry is separated into front and back ends. Behind the 5 to 10 players who are competing on stage, there's a whole team of support staff that can exceed 100 people. Within this group of people, some have expert skill sets such as production, broadcast, or commentating. You don't necessarily have to be a player to make a living in this industry. There are many people with the knowledge of streaming hardware and viewer interaction who can all find work in the day and age of new media and support the industry.
Right, so I guess you can divide gaming as a profession into two different tiers or two different categories. One is the streamer. Streamers basically is 1v many kind of occupation, right? It only takes one of you to really set up the equipment. Of course, you can always choose to have a team behind you, but with the convenience of some of the streaming apps these days, and also how easy it's become with the hardware that's provided to become a professional streamer, it's actually just a one man or one woman show these days. And so that's one side of the equation. The other side is, of course, when esports become a championship game, a sporting event, just like, say, FIFA World Cup, NBA, and MLB, such as those kind of sports. So when it becomes that, then you have a whole ecosystem of people who can actually make this into their profession. Myself being a professional MC, of course, I could also find jobs in esports, and I would love to. So my next question here for Santiago is about the teams. You've also been very honest about the struggles, how your team disbanded because of business challenges. Now, if Taiwan wants to become a real esports hub, what needs to happen next? Is it about sponsorship or education or league support?
我觉得战队这件事情其实它关系到就是商业模式嘛。
I think when you talk about running esports teams, the business model is very important. Esports is still a very young industry. We're still figuring it out. Early gamers thought that playing well meant that they would get sponsors, which, as we found out, is not necessarily the case. Esports teams need more marketing strategies to highlight their value to investors. Professional players might have little to no experience in running a business or an agency, but I do believe that after a while, some of the people with the right backgrounds will emerge and bring their expertise to the industry. Take myself, for example. The team I led won championships, yet why did we disband? Because I knew that without proper business knowledge, I have no idea what the sponsors or the game company investors really want. We're in our own worlds writing business proposals, but no one can really understand what we're offering. On the other hand, I think that the esports industry hasn't reached its full potential. Take the target audience, for example. 10 years ago, we all wanted a pair of Air Jordans, but we couldn't afford them. Now you see people with 10 or more pairs at home. Our generation now has the financial means to fulfill the dreams of our younger days. We can spend it on what we couldn't buy as children. That's when the industry will fully realize its potential, be it the games, the hardware, or any related products. It may take another 5 to 10 years for that consumer market to fully mature.
Yep, and you're starting to hear a lot more of that these days. For example, a very popular title or intellectual property, IP, for a lot of quote-unquote nerds or geeks or tabletop gamer back in the days is Warhammer 40K. Now, it not only has been turned into short films, long films, feature films, as well as multiple video games. Okay, so how about some concluding remarks for our episode? Taiwan's esports rise is a part of a larger global movement, but its challenges are also uniquely local. What started as a fringe hobby has grown into a complex ecosystem of athletes, entertainers, data scientists, marketers, and broadcasters, and the movement isn't slowing down. According to PwC's Global Entertainment and Media Outlook, the global esports industry is projected to surpass $6.75 billion, US dollars that is, by 2030. That's in 3 years. Asia is leading that growth, with China, South Korea, and Southeast Asia building stadiums, university programs, and policy frameworks around esports. Taiwan is well positioned geographically and culturally to be part of that surge, but only if it acts strategically. The industry's future hinges not just on talent, but on infrastructure. That means formal education programs, better mental health support for players, transparent league regulations, and public-private partnerships that treat esports the same way we treat athletes or the arts. Countries like South Korea already recognize esports athletes as legitimate professionals, with government certification and visa support. Taiwan, too, has made small steps. Some vocational schools have introduced gaming curriculum, and training academies have popped up across Taipei and Kaohsiung, but much more is needed. There's also the question of cultural perception. Is gaming still seen as a waste of time, or can it be framed as a skill, one that blends hand-eye coordination, real-time strategy, and digital creativity? For Taiwan's next generation, that cultural shift might just be as important as funding. If Taiwan embraces esports not just as entertainment, but as an industry of the future, one that intersects with software, hardware, media, and young engagement, it could do more than produce champions. It could set the regional standard for how esports is developed responsibly and sustainably.